Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus. I'm Reverend Dr. Marion Stewart. It's my pleasure to serve this congregation as senior minister. Joining me today will be Reverend Eric Meter, Kelly McNeil, and Amber Scott. Thank you so much for joining with us on this Memorial Day weekend. I want to special thank you to Sue Fonlacher, who delivered fresh flowers yesterday for our service, and also to in Memorial Day to all those who serve. This service is in honor of you.
Welcome everyone to our Memorial Day service. My name is Kelly McNeil and I am honored to serve as your Congregational Life Coordinator. We are glad you have joined us this morning. Whether it is your first time or your 1000th, we are so glad that you are here. If you have any questions or would like to know more about who we are and the wonderful opportunities we have to connect and engage, please email me. You can find my email in the chat box. This morning, we would like to send a special thank you and lift up all those who have died in service to this country and all the family members who are missing their loved ones, especially this holiday weekend. Thank you for your service and your sacrifice. We have a few announcements this morning. At 11 o'clock today, we will be hosting a virtual coffee hour. You'll have a few minutes after the service to grab a beverage of your choice and come and join us. You can look for the link for that in the chat box. We have several opportunities to plug in and get connected in a virtual way. If you would like to participate in our UU Cares Wellbeing Checks program, watch and read our daily video and blog posts, or participate in our Thursday evening community chat time, you can find all of that information on our website, or you can shoot me an email and I'll help get you connected. We also have a few religious exploration announcements from Amber Scott this morning. If you have a graduating senior that you would like recognized by the church, please email Amber as soon as possible. Please include the graduate's name, current mailing address, and if they are starting college in the fall, please send that school's name as well. You can find Amber's email in the chat box. Our next youth group meeting is today at 1 p.m. This is for middle and high schoolers aged 12 to 19 years. Every Sunday in May, she will be hosting a kids and families check-in from 11 to 11:30, where we will read stories, have show and tell, play games, and more. If you also have people in your household who want to attend coffee hour, you will need 2 separate devices, as these are 2 separate Zoom meetings. And finally, for parents and caregivers, if you need a space to check in, you can join Amber this Tuesday from 9 to 10 p.m. This is a space to share your quarantine parenting struggles and successes with others who may be experiencing similar things. Links for all of these were provided in our Thursday religious exploration email, but if you need the links, you can email Amber for those. And if you have any questions or need any information about any of these announcements, you can check out the links in the chat box and visit our website. But as always, please do not hesitate to reach out and let us know if you need anything at all. Now, if you'll please join us for our opening hymn, We Gather Together.
We gather together in joyful thanksgiving, acclaiming creation whose bounty we share. Both sorrow and gladness we find now in our living. We sing a hymn of praise to the life that we bear. We gather together to join in the journey, confirming, committing our passage to be a true affirmation in joy and tribulation, when bound to human care and hope, then we are free.
Good morning, everyone. I'm your associate, the Reverend Eric Meter. If you have a chalice or candle at home, I invite you to light it soon as we kindle our flame together. For our chalice lighting this morning, please join me now in speaking the words of James Villa Blake. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. Our chalice is lit. And now Amber has a story for us all. Amber?
Good morning. I'm Amber Scott, your Religious Exploration Coordinator. Today's story is called, Did Tiger Take the Rain? At the base of the Himalayan mountains, where fields touch the village's edge, is a flat land known as the Terai. For many generations, people have lived there on small farms surrounded by the jungle. Anjali lived in one of those villages with her parents, her grandmother and grandfather, one brother, and two sisters. That summer, it was drier and hotter than ever before. There was very little water in the river. One day, a tiger emerged from the forest. She crossed the riverbed and walked through a field near the village. Afraid, the people ran into their houses. The tiger simply looked up at the sky, then returned to the forest. You see, the tiger comes. There is no rain, said a woman. The tiger is angry. She took the rain, said a man. Why is the tiger angry? Anjali said to her best friend Usha, let's go to the forest and ask Tiger why she took the rain. They ran across the field and over the riverbed to the other bank. They pushed their way through the tall, hot grass, lifted up a branch, and entered the forest. Sunlight played through the trees and made patterns on their clothes. They heard the voices of birds and monkeys. Insects buzzed and creatures moved in the leaves at their feet. The air was heavy with the smell of dry leaves and grass. It's so quiet here, said Usha. The air in the forest makes me happy, said Anjali. Suddenly, a curious jackal stood before them. Girl children, why are you here? He asked. We came to ask Tiger why she took the rain, said Usha. We came to ask Tiger why she is angry, said Anjali. There was a time when the trees touched the river's edge as far as you could see, said Jackal. There were many tigers then. My grandfather told me that back then, Tiger never crossed the river, said Usha. We need the forest too. We find herbs and medicines in the forest, said Anjali. And wood for our homes, said Usha. Yes, the forest was and is Tiger's home. Many animals live in the forest. They live in the trees and on the ground, and we need the trees to protect us, said Jackal. There was a time when forests covered most of the Terai. Much of it has been cut down. Suddenly, the birds stopped singing. Tiger is near, said Monkey. Come with us. I will show you where the rain is, said Monkey. Every leaf gives off water. The sun pulls that water to the sky and makes a cloud, said Monkey. It takes a cloud to rain. When there is no forest, there will be less rain, said Monkey. And less rain means no new forest. New forests need water, said Usha. No forest, no cloud, said Anjali. No cloud, no rain, said Usha. No rain, no forest, said Anjali. No forest, no cloud, said Usha. Take these seeds to your village, said Monkey. Plant them and they will grow into new trees. And new trees will grow into a forest, said Usha. And a new forest will bring back the rain, said Anjali. We all live under the same sky, said Anjali. When the sun shines, it shines down on humans and tigers together. When it rains, we share the same rain. We feel the same wind. We breathe the same air, said Usha. When we harm the forest, we harm Tiger. What harms Tiger harms us too, said Usha. We have taken too much. Let's put it back, said Anjali. Let's plant a new forest. And suddenly, as they planted the seeds, it began to rain. Tiger looked up at the sky. Satisfied by the rain, she returned to her forest. The end. We are all interconnected. The choices of the individual touch us all, and the actions and values of our congregation send out ripples into the larger community and the wider world. May we be generous with each other and compassionate in our search for justice and harmony.
Thanks, Amber. May more of us heed the wisdom of the animals and young people. Later in our time together this morning, we will bring forward those in our community who are experiencing grief, loss, or moments of celebration. I invite you to use the chat box now to type in your full name and, in 10 words or less, the sorrow or joy you wish to share, and then select Send to Panelists. And now we have a reflection from Reverend Marion.
Good morning. As we begin our segment for reflection, I invite you, if you still have your candle from the chalice lighting, to keep it nearby. Also, if you don't have one, I suggest that you get one now if it's nearby. On this Memorial Day, let us broaden our perspective and think about community and what it means to be a part of that community. Even online, we are a congregation, complete with longtime members and visitors as well. All of us span the generations. It's a wonderful place to be. We also exist in a community of people that we can't see or touch, and that includes communities of the past and of the future. In honor of this broad sense of community of which we are a part, I would like to offer you a prayer for the world. On this Memorial Day weekend, we remember that it's not all about picnics and sunny skies, but we celebrate by remembering those who gave their lives for this country and for us. A prayer for the world, written by Reverend Amy Shaw and adapted. We ask you to respond after each line with, "We lift up our hearts." Amber will help me with this. For all who die in war,
we lift up our hearts.
For all who live in suffering in the aftermath of violence,
we lift up our hearts.
For all who go on in honor of the dead,
we lift up our hearts.
For all who have served,
we lift up our hearts.
For our country and our world,
we lift up our hearts.
For a planet that will find peace,
we lift up our hearts.
For the young and the innocent,
we lift up our hearts.
For the weary and war-torn,
we lift up our hearts.
For those who would pray,
we lift up our hearts.
For those too angry to cry,
we lift up our hearts.
For all of us, for the many names of the divine,
we lift up our hearts.
We lift up our hearts, Shanti, Shalom, peace, Salam, blessed be, and Amen. And now for all of our history buffs, we have a Unitarian history from the time of the influenza a century ago. Just as World War I was ending, the pandemic of 1918-1919 hit our country. Science and medical technology were not as advanced as they are now, but the desire to help and serve where needed is a persistent human trait. In this video, we witness brave and good-hearted people, including Unitarians, offer their services and their church for the greater good. Special appreciation to Susan Ritchie, the director of Harvard Square Library, a digital resource for Unitarian Universalist heritage, for giving us permission to share the video this morning. I invite you to go with me into a moment of history with the Unitarian and the Universalist congregations across this country during the influenza epidemic of 1918-1919.
This is an aerial view of the Unitarian Universalist Meeting House in Provincetown, Massachusetts. Local folklore holds that this beautiful and historic building is haunted by the ghost or the ghosts of people who died in the church when it was used as a temporary hospital during the horrendous influenza of 1918 and 1919. Worldwide, over 50 million people died, so it's little wonder that this history itself should continue to haunt us and ask us to remember the people and the events of that time. This brief video provides a snapshot of how some Unitarian and Universalist congregations survived the influenza of 1918 and 1919. The flu first showed up in the United States in March of 1918 when a soldier at Fort Riley, Kansas fell ill and many others followed suit given the crowded living conditions of the wartime fort. Many died in Kansas, but the situation had become more disastrous and widespread when the flu showed up in New England in August of 1918. By fall, most American communities were inundated with cases, and hospitals struggled to keep up with those who were ill, especially as many doctors and nurses were already away, engaged in the war effort. The need to restrict public gatherings was not immediately understood. On September 23, 1918, Judge A. Chester Clark, 41 years of age, of the Concord Municipal Court, died of the influenza, and a very heavily attended service was held at the Unitarian Church. 10 days later, 26-year-old Reverend Reese Williams, who officiated at the funeral, succumbed to the flu. The paper noted that his life was full of promise, and his loss to the community will be widely felt, for few young men have in so short a time made such an impression. Eventually, public gatherings would be restricted and face masks required or strongly encouraged by local authorities. Church services were suspended in hot spots. Some church officials, such as the Roman Catholic Bishop of Detroit, Michael Gallagher, joined business owners in begging officials to lift the ban on public gatherings. In general, however, the Unitarian and Universalist churches cooperated with the authorities, often using the occasion to show their support for science-based public policy, even as some other religious leaders were suggesting that the cause of the epidemic might be precisely God's displeasure over the growing support of science in liberal religious circles. The Reverend Charles Graves at the Unitarian Church in Hartford, Connecticut, preached a sermon on the need of religion to modernize. I know of nothing that shows how significantly the motives in religion have changed, as do the methods of combating this serious epidemic of influenza. 2 or 3 generations ago, it would have been regarded as the work of the devil if any attempt had been made to close the churches. Now, when an epidemic smites, church services, prayer meetings, and pilgrimages are all suspended. And we readily agree to such suspension because we now know that fighting and conquering disease is not God's business, but ours. As the peak of the influenza hit, many Unitarian and Universalist churches, like the one in Provincetown, gave their spaces over to ease the overcrowding in the hospitals. In Santa Cruz, California, the congregation provided space for a Red Cross hospital in their Center Street social hall. The church in Iowa City transformed their building into a space that was used to provide meals for exhausted healthcare workers, including the medical students at the university, who, while not yet graduated, had been recruited to help serve in the hospital. The Women's Alliance also made gauze face masks for neighborhood children to help slow the spread of infection and encourage them to wear them in emulation of the healthcare providers. The Unitarian Church in Oakland, California, removed their seats and installed their beds to accommodate a new clinic. The parish house, known as Gannett House, of the Unitarian Church in Rochester was turned into a convalescent hospital to accommodate patients discharged from the hospital after surviving influenza, but who could not return home, either because they were not strong enough or because there was no one healthy enough to take care of them. Sometimes congregations simply provided space, but other times they also undertook heroic volunteer responsibilities. Gannett House received all of its supplies from the Red Cross, but most of its workers were from the congregation. Unitarian and Universalist women also entered into creative partnerships with women from other denominations to provide services. In Worcester, Massachusetts, women from the Universalist Church teamed up with women from the All Saints Church and Union Church to open a home for children either orphaned or left temporarily without parental care during the epidemic. The home not only provided food and shelter, but also had volunteers on hand constantly to provide comforts and services such as homeschooling, recreation, and tucking the children individually into bed. Universalists in Lowell, Massachusetts opened an emergency kitchen, supplying and even delivering hearty soups and other meals at extremely low cost to anyone who needed them. While the space was provided by Grace Universalist Church, women's church groups from many different denominations took their turns doing the work. Eventually, after a few frightening resurgences, including one triggered by the widespread celebrating that occurred on Armistice Day, November 11, 1918, effectively ending World War I, the epidemic had pretty much died down by the end of 1919. Normal activities, including church services, resumed, and as the Lowell's Courier-Citizen newspaper put it, hearts beat lighter with the proposed healing from the epidemic. That same newspaper article described the first service of the reopened Unitarian Church. The Reverend William Walsh preached on the text from Psalms, "For the Lord will reward the faithful." Miss Butterworth resumed her place at the organ, and Miss Gregson so beautifully decorated the altar with autumn leaves and cosmos flowers that the paper noted that it was as if the leaves and flowers were smiling, as if Jack Frost had never found out their habitations. Not everything was a celebration that day, however. A gold memorial star was placed on a flag in front of the church in honor of a young man of the congregation who had died in active military service, as the congregation returned to its more ordinary ways of coming together in both celebration and mourning.
A century ago, and here we are again in some ways. I invite you to get your candle if you have it nearby. The impact of the COVID-19 pandemic is real for all of us, whether we are touched by it directly or indirectly. Some of us know people who have the virus, and its impact is getting closer as we learn of cousins and friends of friends who have died of COVID-19. Maybe you have family members who have died as well. This morning, we will share a ritual to recognize the deaths due to this virus, to note the particular pain of grieving in isolation, as well as to lift up in gratitude for all of those on the front lines, healthcare workers, grocery store workers, janitors, domestic workers, and so many more. Will you join me now in lighting a candle of grief and gratitude? I invite you to join with me as each time in saying we light this candle, after which I will say a few words and invite you to speak the names in your heart. We light this candle in honor of all those working on the front lines, in the hospitals, nursing homes, grocery stores, and gas stations. I invite you to now to name those you know who are on the front lines. We light this candle to send our love to those dying in isolation, especially those we know and those who are loved by those we know. I invite you now to name those you know who have died of this virus. We light this candle to send our love to all those grieving deaths of all causes. I invite you now to name those you know who are grieving. We light this candle in recognition of the enormity of this pandemic's impact on each of us, on those we love, on everyone, especially those already challenged by poverty, racism, transphobia, ableism, xenophobia, and so much more. We light this candle in grief, in honor, in recognition, and most of all, in love. Blessed be, and amen. Now we have special music from Michaela.
Du
Thank you, Michaela, for that wonderful music as we contemplated our candle flames. First UU is a church that matters. It is in the foundation of our being to love, to care, and to be generous. Here we find meaning and inspiration in community, online and off. We also work for justice. We know this world is a long way from being fair to all people. It takes all of us to make it better. Just as we benefit from our ancestors who have gone before us and lift up those who will follow, we celebrate the best of who we are, ask forgiveness when we fall short, and recommit ourselves to living our values. We promise to take care of what we have built together, to make sure there is enough to support our vision and to help those in need. To offer our gifts and pay our promised pledges is to say to ourselves and the world that we are defined by our hearts and our deeper values. Our Share the Plate recipient for May is the Charitable Pharmacy of Central Ohio. The Charitable Pharmacy provides compassionate access to prescription medication, health screenings, health and wellness education, medication counseling, and social program referrals at no cost for low-income, uninsured, and underinsured individuals. The offering that helps build a better world and a better church will now be gratefully received online. You can donate online via text or our website, bank by mail, or write a check and mail it in. If you need to reduce or skip your pledge or contribution this month due to employment issues, please let us know. For everyone else, if you can, please consider increasing your contribution so we can keep the church running and help those who need help. Thank you for your generosity.
Thank you, Nathan, once again. We pause this Memorial Day to celebrate the enduring memories of those who have sacrificed for our welfare. We pause also in recognition of the milestone moments in the lives of members of our community. The following submissions are from our Zoom chat this morning, as well as caring card requests that came in during the week. We have 4 cards this morning. Congratulations to our office manager, Marianne Garcia, who has just completed the Orton Gillingham Dyslexia Training Program for tutoring students who struggle with reading and spelling. Well done, Marianne. I'm also thrilled to announce that church member Mary Wittmeyer graduated from the Methodist Theological School of Ohio with her Master's of Divinity degree a week ago Saturday. Congratulations, Mary. Very well done. This morning also, loving thoughts and prayers go out to Marilyn and her family upon the death of her husband, Tom Bierman, who died on May 19th after struggling with a long illness. We also send our condolences this morning to the family of Jennifer Johnston, longtime church auction team member. Jennifer died on May 15th while driving home to Worthington from visiting her daughter in Arizona. And here is what you have brought forward to be shared this morning. Tomorrow, Jay will celebrate the 7th anniversary of his ordination into the ministry. Congratulations, Jay. And Sylvia requests prayers for her sister Christine, who sits by her husband John as he passes from this world. Ken announces the birth of his first grandchild, Wyatt Albert, now 2 months old. And Barb shares with us the news that a former co-worker of hers died from COVID-19 this past week. The woman was a gentle, loving person. Sarah announces that today is her 17th wedding anniversary to her beloved husband, Joe. Congratulations to you both. And Farrell writes, all who knew him are in mourning for Tom Bierman. Very true. Thank you, Farrell. Robin would like to share that her family lost their companion Popo, the Amazon parrot, who died suddenly at 45 years of age. Popo sang opera and talked and whistled. Robin concludes that Popo enriched 3 generations of their family. Mitch offers a salute to his daughter, a first-year medical resident in California, who is on the front line, who grieves those who are lost and who remembers. And Kelly is thankful for her sister, Michelle, who's an interventional radiation tech at the UCLA Medical Center. And another extended family member, this is continuing from Kelly, is also proud of another family member who works at an assisted living community in Cincinnati. And finally now, among these offerings, Ken is thankful for his sister and brother-in-law in public health and pediatrics at UC Davis, California. In the stillness of the moment to come, let the sound of our temple bell guide us forward with our memories and our gratitude very much in mind. Together, we emerge from this moment more restored and more ready for the days ahead. In that spirit, let us sing together once more, answering the call of love.
And so every soul
For our benediction this morning, it's a benediction on pandemic by Reverend Lynn Unger. What if you thought of it as the Jews consider the Sabbath, the most sacred of times? Cease from travel, cease from buying and selling. Give up, just for now, on trying to make this world different than it is. Sing, pray, touch only those to whom you commit your life. Center down. And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny that now. Know that our lives are in another's hands. Surely that has become clear. Do not reach out your hands. Reach out your heart. Reach out your words. Reach out all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better, for worse, in sickness and in health, so long as we all shall live. Amen.
As a symbol of our connection in shared vision as a congregation, I invite you to place your hands over your heart or virtually hold hands as we say our closing words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of vision. As we go forth, let us heal and transform ourselves and our world through reason and love.
Everyone is invited to coffee hour after the service. After the postlude, you will need to leave this broadcast, grab your beverage, and then head back into Zoom at 11 o'clock using the link posted in the chat. Every Sunday in May, there will also be kids and families check-in at 11. The link was included in today's Sunday worship email. For login information, please email Amber. The church's Discord channel and Facebook group are always open. You can pop in anytime. And thank you for sharing. The link for coffee hour will be posted again after the postlude. For the kids and families check-in, please email Amber.
And a special thanks to everyone who made today's worship service possible. Thanks to Sue Farnlocker once again, who provided beautiful flowers for this morning. Our phenomenal musicians, Brandon Moss, Michaela Jones-Brown, thank you, thank you, thank you. And always to Nathan Ham, our pianist extraordinaire. To our ministry team, members Amber Scott, Kelly McNeil, and our senior minister, the Reverend Dr. Marion Stewart. And once again, thanks to Angela Rupert, a new member who has been phenomenal providing tech support.
And now I invite you to go into the weekend, but also to coffee hour, as Nathan plays us out with a postlude. The links for everything will be on your screen following the postlude. Thank you to all who joined our service this morning. We are so glad you did, and happy Memorial Day weekend. Not just happy, but also let us remember all those who are on the front lines now and in the past and who will be in the future. Thank you to all. Our coffee hour questions for today. What does community mean to you? What do you see in service? What do you see service in terms of community? And in what ways do you serve? Think about these for coffee hour and for this week. And we'll see you again next week online. Blessed be, amen, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.